figured I'd give you guys a kind of a look on how I made the shop truck for Huml's Hobbies. Obviously, when I did the unboxing video, I immediately took the truck apart and came out here, so those were recorded on the same night. Anyhow, right now what I did is I took all this stuff off the truck, took it off the chassis, the bed, the hood, the cab, taped off the mirrors. I'm going to go ahead and spray on the chrome wipers because I'm just going to touch those up in my own little style. But I went ahead and I sanded with some 2500 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to go ahead and start my base coat of rust color. Here's what I'm going to be using for the base coat is just flat red primer. As you can see, I already started kind of without you guys. So what I did here is you're supposed to use a spray bottle. I don't have one at the moment, so I got a cup of water. I got some standard, I got some sea salt, which you can use pretty much any kind of salt, just some ground up salt. I also have some aquarium salt in there that has bigger chunks in it. So what we're doing right now is I'm dipping my thing here, my paper towel, getting some water, kind of spreading some water about. And then what you want to do is just kind of push some salt in there. You can go thick in certain areas if you want. Take some of the thicker salt. It didn't stick too well, but you can kind of just sprinkle it in different areas. So the basic idea of this, you're going to go around, do all the parts of the truck. You're going to salt out big sections, little sections, however much you kind of want to do. What'll happen is this will dry. We're going to flake off everything that we don't want and let it fall, and then we're going to put more coats of paint. So what this does is it adds pits, rust pits and everything else, and adds layers and depth to our paint job since we're doing the old beat up look. So now if you take a look, everything's kind of dried into place. It can still be flaked off. So if you have any last minute things you want, if you want an area not to be so salted, you can kind of take your finger, brush some of it off so it's not as severe. Kind of give you a last minute decision on what you want to do with how much salt you want to go with. You can see I got some under there too. So what I'm going to do now, and this probably should have been a flat color, but this is what I have available, is I'm going to take some bright orange and I'm going to do a light layer over these pieces while they're still got the salt on them. And then after that, I'm going to take some flat red and I'm going to put a layer or two of flat red. And then finally, I'm going to end up putting the gloss red, a coat or two over that. And that'll give me some layers, so when I wet sand it and pull off all the salt and everything, and then wet sand some more, we'll have like some nice discoloration to make it look like a more natural discoloration. So you'll go from the gloss red, you'll shave it down, you'll go into the flat red so it looks like the color dulled into the orange. The orange will look kind of like, the beginning parts of rust, and then at the bottom part, which is the nice brown rust that's been there for a while. Applied the flat red. Just did one little coat. Probably went a little too thick on it, but it's not a big deal because it's just going to blend with the gloss red. So now I'm fixing to do the final coat of gloss red, and then we'll be ready to let that dry and flake off all this salt and get our end result. I let everything dry. Dried for probably a good 14 to 16 hours. However, one thing I noticed is I put a lot of coats of paint on over this stuff, and I'm having a heck of a time getting it to come off. I'm using this wire brush, which most people would probably say if you did this the correct way, I wouldn't have to use this. However, I will say it is coming out awesome. It's a lot of work, a lot of, scrubbing on this thing, but I think it's going to be worth it in the long run. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to finish up this bed and we'll go from there. There it is, all done. As you can see, doing the salt method really worked. Brought out all these little pits. Everything in here really looks like something that's been rotting behind a barn for a little while. I went ahead and added some popsicle sticks for the bed here. Painted them up, glued them down, took a silver Sharpie, kind of went in between them for the little metal brackets there, and that didn't turn out the greatest, but it's an old beat up truck, who really cares? I also used some engine fuel and oil from MIG. This stuff's fantastic. As you can see, it leaves like an oily residue in there, makes it look like something leaked all over the truck. For inside the panel lines and things like that, to add a bit more realism, I also used panel line accent from Tamiya. This stuff works wonders. I've used it on a lot of models in the past. It really brings out a lot of character. I had my wife use her Cricut machine. She printed me out a stencil, so I was able to make the Huml's Hobbies. That came out a little brighter than I wanted it to. I had a little trick that didn't work too well, where I was going to stand really far away with the spray paint, and I still ended up doing a little too thick, so I actually took some of the panel line accent and kind of dabbed it on my finger, ran it across it a little bit to add a little more aging to it. As you can see inside the interior here, I cut up an old shirt and kind of glued it down in there. Sorry about the glare from the camera, guys. But yeah, I glued it down in there. I added a FMS sticker where the horn would be on this old truck. You can't really see it too well in the camera, but I also added a couple water transfers for the gauge clusters and the tachometer there. And of course, I got a Psycho 13 on the dashboard, because who wouldn't want to represent Psycho 13? One thing I do want to note, this right here, when I was using the brush, kind of brushed the inside here, I got a little too close with the back side of it, and the plastic actually rubbed off a lot of the paint. It kind of happened to me up here a little bit too. I was going a little too aggressive, but that's okay. We rolled with the punches. It's an old beat up truck. It's going to have flaws. That's kind of what brings the character out in it. So I took some more panel line accent, kind of rubbed it in, make it a little darker. And you never know, like this could be this, well, obviously this was the stock color of the truck, so it's just showing through from all this fresh paint that ruined and chipped off over the years and caused that to happen. I had these spare wheels and tires laying around, and I thought they were a little bit better of a fit for this particular build. I know the green set looked really nice when the truck was green, but they weren't going to work with this one, so I went ahead and switched them out to these guys. I also took the springs out and went full droop on the suspension, so now these tires are nice and tucked in here. They didn't go so low here, and it does rest on the steering arm a little bit. It didn't really affect too much of the steering when I was playing with it. This thing takes kind of wide angles anyways, and this is not something I'm going to take off-road, obviously. This truck is more of a model showpiece for the channel. I did a little bit to the bumpers. I actually sanded it down with 2000 grit to give it like, you can kind of see like a little coppery color going on, to take that shine away. Obviously I left some shine in there a little bit, and I took my hobby knife and cut it up a little, try to age it out. I did the same thing to the ones that are in there. I didn't do it too much to these guys. and I left the bumpers pretty much alone. I feel like that's the style these days anyways. Everybody takes these old cruddy trucks and puts pretty chrome and awesome rims and wheels and tires and whatnot on them and slams them. So that's kind of what we were going for here to a certain degree. Keep an eye out on the future with this truck. I'm probably going to have this truck on the channel quite a bit. Whenever I get parts and things like that, I'm going to incorporate them. This is going to be my parts delivery truck. There'll be different changes happening to this truck all the time. This is going to always be a work in progress. I've got other ideas in mind. We'll see how far we get with that. But yeah, you will be seeing this a lot more on the channel. It's my channel truck. I dig it. So, alright, well, that wraps up this video. Hope you guys like it. I'm sure there's probably a lot of modelers out there that could do this process better than me. They probably have videos and how-tos. This is just my 2 cents. I'm always open to constructive criticism. Anything that I can do better, please let me know in the comments. Even if it comes to editing, filming, let me know what I'm doing right, let me know what I'm doing wrong. And happy RCing. Bye.